As we live alongside nature, she helps us to realise that our whole life is a season and cycle. So there are going to be times when we're full blossom and bloom, and there's going to be times when things feel a little bit barren. And then we no longer fear that.
Do you have off days?
Always, yeah. Not that often, but I think one thing, and even one of the reasons I wanted to bring this book to life, Sacred Seasons, is because what nature teaches us so beautifully is that everything's a cycle. And one of the things we do in our modern day world to our detriment is expect we always have to be on, in full bloom. Everything has to be perfect all the time. And even as we see in nature, there has to be times of void. So when I go through those times, I actually call it the void or the wilderness, where I'll go into those times where nothing makes sense and everything just feels a little bit sketchy. And I've learned to enjoy it over the years, because in actual fact, it's in those times when you lose yourself that you actually find yourself.
Yeah.
It's in those times when nothing makes sense, when you get to relook at everything and make things make sense. And so, but I've learned to just be okay with not being okay and to welcome every emotion.
Because I'm reading your book, and you've also sorted, and you bring a sense of calm and support to any situation you're in. When Kirsty's around, everything seems to be all right. Even if you're not, I can't tell. So that's why I wanted to ask you that. But you bring this sense of calm and, reflection, and it's okay. Mother Nature's got our back. Mother Moon's got our back. All you have to do is look around you. All the signs are there.
Yeah.
Every day's a school day.
Absolutely.
If you like. Just talk about rituals over regimes, first of all. What is the importance of a ritual over a regime or a routine?
So a routine is something that we do more because we have to, whereas a ritual gives something meaning and gives something purpose. And so it's almost like we do it for our soul. Rituals are for our soul. There's something that just take us a layer, like you brush your teeth out of a routine because that's something you have to do every day.
Yeah.
But a ritual takes us into something deeper where what we're doing is really nourishing for that non-human part of us, the soul part of us.
Yeah, and it's so important, isn't it? And if you bear that in mind whilst you're doing this new acquired habit, it has more of an effect, and that's been scientifically proven, hasn't it? So if you're doing something for your fitness or whatever it is you're doing, if you bear in mind that you're doing it, the reason that you're doing it for whilst you're doing it, it has like a 10x effect. It's something crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Even with us talking about weight training, you could see that as a chore of, oh God, I've got to train, I've got to work out, I don't feel like it today. But when you see it as more of a ritual of this is helping to empower me and make me feel stronger, and we do it from something from the inside versus something external, it makes such a big difference.
It makes such a difference. And also then you stop looking forward to things, not from an excitement point of view, but you stop projecting forward to everything that might be a little bit sort of effortful or turbulent. And then it's all about being sort of
in the moment.
And people say to me, oh, you must be excited about so-and-so because it's a good thing. And my real answer is, well, I'm not really. And they go, and I used to say that out loud, but it caused so much of a conversation that I didn't have time for. They went, oh, that's a shame. I went, no, that's not what I mean.
I'll be excited when I get there.
I'm so here now that, I know it's happening and I'm sure it's going to be great, but this is already great here.
Yes.
If it's not great, we can make it great. So we were speaking about you coming in. We were speaking about it the whole show because we love you. And the book's fantastic, isn't it? It's absolutely fantastic. We spoke first of all about the fact that it's March, we're in the middle of March, it's spring, there is new life in many places and many parts of the planet, and lots of people consider and reflect and compose perhaps a new regime or new intentions in January, which is, look, any kind of reflection or pause of thought is helpful.
Absolutely.
But if you missed out on Jan, or you started in Jan and you haven't sort of checked in with yourself, March is probably the best place, if not a better place to do it. And that's sort of where you begin, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's a second chance at a new beginning. So the traditional New Year's never really resonated with me because I find it really hard to set intentions and wish and dream when everything is still cold and dark and beneath the surface and nature's hibernating. And I really feel that's why many resolutions don't stick, because we fight against nature. So at the time when we need to be resting and nourishing ourselves, we're pushing out into the world and the earth is still frozen over and we're trying to run across frozen earth and do. And I feel if we could just give ourselves a bit more grace in January, to just enter the year slowly, to put our heads out a little bit and say, what does this year feel like for me? What do I want to create? How do I need to nourish myself now so that I can have what I want? And when we look at nature, it's a beautiful example. Nature knows a new beginning isn't when that flower blooms. The new beginning begins when that seed gets planted and the earth is given time to rest and to nurture and to be regenerated. So the traditional Celtic New Year used to be at Halloween, where everything died away, because it was in that dying away and the releasing that the ground got to be truly nourished and nurtured so the things could grow in spring. So if we gave ourselves that same grace and allowed ourselves to move more gently into the year, and we can all feel it now. I mean, I'm sure you've all felt it. The past few mornings and evenings, there's been that moment where you're like, oh, it's 6 o'clock, it's still light.
I know.
Oh my goodness, I'm getting up in the morning and it's already light. So now we're starting to awaken.
So magical,
Nature's on our side now for us to go. Rather than January, it's still dark at 8:30 in the morning and we're like, oh, it's January, but I've got to wish, I've got to intend, I've got to... Now we're all like, oh... There's opportunity in the air. We can smell it in the air. Like there's that sense of something's coming. Yeah. And when we live in tune with the world around us that we're part of, we are part of nature, everything just gets so much easier. And
it sounds simple, and it is simple, but it's easy to forget because, you know, even the most wonderful things we forget the moment, you know, either we're out of their company or we've gone around the corner, you know, and your book reminds me that I always need to be reminded about everything. And that's why I was asking you about, do you fall out of line sometimes? And that's why journaling is really important. That's why checking in with yourself in the morning is important. You know, that we always talk about this, don't we? The alarm goes off in the morning. I have 2 alarms, you know. I have a 4 o'clock alarm and a 4:15 alarm if I'm running in, and a 4:15 alarm and a 4:30 alarm if I'm cycling in. And it's not so I can go back to sleep and have a snooze. It's so I can have this 15 minutes of, you know, what do I want from the day? How am I today? How was I last night? Bit of gratitude, you know, what I want to focus on today. But the setting of intentions, you know, which you can do on a daily basis or a weekly basis, but to do them on a seasonal basis, I've never even thought about them before, and it's so obvious. And I'm like, I started to set my intentions at the back of your book straight away. I thought, I've got to start doing this. And what are yours? What kind of things are, without getting too personal, what kind of things are on your radar?
I'm really determined over this season to start to just grow much more into allowing this work to be put out there into the world more. I mean, one little secret that's no longer going to be a secret now, I share this, but I can have a tendency sometimes to doubt myself a lot and to feel like, oh, little old me, what have I got to share? And I'm now just coming to the point where I'm like, people need this. The time that we're living in right now, people need this. We need that reconnection back to nature, seasons, cycles, the planets, the moon. We need to come back to that way of living. And so one intention I'm really making for myself is to just be seen more, to let myself start to grow into...
To be the best you can, to give the message you have been blessed with.
Absolutely, to start to really
don't be
share
embarrassed
that.
about it.
Yeah.
And I know you're not embarrassed about it because you got over 100,000 followers on Instagram, and also they're... You know, people have millions, people have 10, people have 100. You've got 120,000 or whatever it is, but they are so engaged with you, aren't they? It's
a community.
Other people have 120,000, you know, whatever. But yours are there. They're right in front of you, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's a community, and I think that's why I do adore that platform, because even over the past few years, we all knew, and we're not alone. Whenever we're feeling something, if there's a current lunar cycle, like we're in quite a big one at the moment, I'll start getting messages, and as soon as I put something out there, everyone goes, oh, it's not just me.
That's what it was.
It helps us to know that we're in this together, and we're all affected by the same moon in the same sky and the same nature all around us, and we're all connected always.
And many of us in the past have come and gone, and that will happen because we're born and then we're unborn. But the moon, she's been there for a lot longer than any of us. So why don't we have a listen to the governor? You know, moon over the sun. How come the moon has so much to tell us and the sun not so much? Do you think?
I think that the sun only governs 24 hours in a day, whereas the moon takes us through a full cycle. So if our ancestors lived by the moon, because if you wanted to track a day, you track the sun. But if you wanted to look any further ahead, you would track the moon. And whereas the sun in astrology represents our ego, our personality, and how we're here to shine, the moon represents that inner world, who we are when no one else is watching, that inner world of our emotions, our hopes, our dreams. So the moon really takes us to the truth of ourselves, the real depth of the truth. Yeah,
and she's long-term and also short-term because she has these monthly meetings, doesn't
she? Yep.
On the lunar cycles. And that's why this book is so great, because if you fell in love with lunar living, and people are buying that book today as a result of the show, lunar, not even this one, right?
Yeah.
So you fell in love with that one. If that was like your sort of first year at uni, this is your second, maybe. I suppose.
Yeah.
You know. Tell me, because you talk about affirmations, don't you?
Yes.
And about the fact that an affirmation is different from a phrase or a slogan because it only has positive grammar or positive wording in it. And you give an example of one that isn't and one that is, and how useful they are, and why they're useful, and why they have this sort of encoded energy in them.
That's it. Affirmations help us to reprogram our subconscious mind, and they help us to bring forth the energy of what it is that we want. So when we speak affirmations, we want to speak in present tense, in the positive. So rather than "I don't want to be tired," we'd say "I'm filled with aliveness, I'm vibrant, I'm awake, I'm alive."
And not "I would like to," I am.
I am.
And is that the same as a sankalpa when you're meditating?
Yes.
So it's "I am resting deeply, I am restoring my inner being, I am doing this, and I am doing it now."
I am. So a sankalpa, the word translates to, it's a heart-based desire. So it's a desire that you have in this moment from your heart. And the more we tell ourselves, even just saying the words, "I am awake, I'm alive," you're like, yeah, I am. Yeah, it makes such a big difference.
So about this book, we got to get people. We got to push people towards this book. Sacred Seasons.
Sacred Seasons. So what I wanted to do is take us through a journey living alongside nature.
Yep.
So finding our true nature through nature. And nature's tangible. That's one beautiful thing about it. Like the moon, we can actually look outside the window and see what's happening. And as we live alongside nature, she helps us to realise that our whole life is a season and cycle. So there are going to be times when we're full blossom and bloom, and there's going to be times when things feel a little bit barren. And then we no longer fear that. We allow ourselves to go with that rhythm. And nature also reminds us, I'm often shocked that we have to remind ourselves nowadays to self-care and things like that. But nature shows us again, in just like the moon, in perfect simplicity, that there has to be times when we go inwards, where we rest, where we nourish in order. Nature can only grow these beautiful blooms because she's just rested, regenerated, and gone within.
Yeah, you've got to have your R&R.
And so when we follow those cycles of nature, we also, as well as the rest, give ourselves permission, as I mentioned earlier, to be in bloom. You don't ever see a flower going, oh no, perhaps I won't blossom, and what will that flower... Nature just goes... Nature's
explodes.
There.
Yeah.
And nature does everything in perfect timing. Nature knows there is perfect timing